Welcome to StrongHER Voices, the podcast for women stepping into their StrongHER era. Whether you're navigating perimenopause, menopause, or simply the next powerful chapter of your life, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Ashley Basilio, certified menopause health coach, fitness professional, and lifelong learner. Here we replace confusion with clarity, isolation with community, and overwhelm with simple, sustainable steps forward. In each episode, we talk honestly about the changes happening in our bodies and lives, explore strategies to help you feel energized and confident, and hear from experts and real women walking this journey beside you. Because this isn't the end of anything, it's the beginning of becoming stronger. Let's dive in. Hi, friends, and welcome to StrongHER Voices. I'm so glad you're here. Today's guest is Leah Andreoni, a licensed perinatal therapist and the founder of Rising Sun Therapy. Leah has been supporting women and families for over 20 years, and she brings a grounded, compassionate, and deeply practical approach to her work. As a mother herself, Leah understands firsthand the emotional toll that caregiving, identity shifts, and life's transitions can take, especially when we're trying to support everyone else and forget to take care of ourselves. Through Rising Sun Therapy, she helps women navigate everything from motherhood to midlife with clarity, mindfulness, and strength-based tools. She's certified in perinatal mental health, trained in nutrition-informed care, and passionate about helping women rediscover who they are beneath the noise of daily life. Today, we're diving into a powerful conversation about letting go of people-pleasing, especially during perimenopause, and how to start setting boundaries, reclaiming your time, and living in alignment with your values. Leah, I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me and, providing that background as I realized, oh, wow, 20 years in the field. No wonder I feel so old. So it's just a great way to be like, I am older than I think. And this is why everything is now happening in this stage of life. So I do appreciate that kind of grounded beginning. Thank you.
I feel the same way when I say that I've been doing what I'm doing for 25 years. Like, oh my gosh, how could that much time? I feel like I'm just got out of college.
Exactly. That much time could not have possibly gone
There's
by.
no way. I know.
But it has, yes.
It
But
has.
thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. The work that you do to help women is so important. So
Thank
I gave
you.
a little bit of a background, but I'm
Mhm.
wondering if you could share a bit more about your background and what drew you to work specifically with women navigating these life transitions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I've been in the field, various therapeutic capacities for 20 years. I've been doing more outpatient therapy for more like 13 years. And I've been working with moms and women and families for so long that once I started Rising Sun in 2022, I really decided that I wanted to work with women, specifically the perinatal population. So that's where we got started and that's our foundation. But as I continue to work with women, after the babies, throughout life, and my own journey of getting older, the whole women's health spectrum is really what I'm passionate about. And, starting to go through my own journey of perimenopause, I would say probably longer, but noticing this past year in 2025. Sorry, we're now in 2026.
We were just into 2026, only 6
Yeah.
days in. Yes.
Yes. So 2025, really noticing things shifting in me and shifting within my clients. As, I see clients, my age and even older, and seeing how the hormonal changes and the transitions that we're going through really affect their mental health and their capacity to be able to really function day to day and parent and work and, take care of all the things. So I believe, as therapists, we really get into the field and the specialties that really call to us. So starting with the perinatal after having my 2 children and continuing with that population, but also adding in the perimenopause and menopause population as I'm starting to transition. But I really appreciate coaches and providers like yourself being able to bring out these topics and the education that is so needed right now. And because I'm hearing from the women, I don't know about this, I don't know about this. Well, I want to go to my doctor, but my doctor doesn't seem to know about this.
Right.
So as I'm educating myself and talking to people like you, practitioners that are trained within this population, it's so important. So I thank you for that. And that's kind of why I'm moving into that direction also, personal and professional need, really.
Yeah. And you know what? You described perfectly sort of why I'm doing what I'm doing too is,
Mm-hmm.
just a few years ago, I found myself, I had relaunched Get Fit with Ashley. I was trying to be everything to everybody. I got senior
Mm-hmm.
certified. I was youth certified. I was working with men, couples, women, all this stuff. And I found myself entering perimenopause with the typical symptoms, hot flashes, rage, irritability, um, brain fog, all of those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things, and recognized, oh my gosh, this is a huge problem for me personally, and decided at that point to sort of niche down and to target women in midlife in terms of trying to make the most impact
Mm-hmm.
with what I do. And so I think a lot of us who are in this field have come to it the same way,
Yeah.
right? Like we were
Yeah.
experiencing something personally that there's not that much help out there for. Even our doctors, as you said, don't always have the most up to date or accurate information.
Mm-hmm.
And so we find ourselves niching down into this field. When we talk about people pleasing, and this is such a
Mm-hmm.
big one here, why do you think it becomes such a big challenge during this sort of midlife transition specifically?
Yes, and I do love working with my people pleasing women. They are absolutely lovely. And because right now, as you know, the estrogen is plummeting and it's a roller coaster ride. But as that decreases, our caregiving desires and capabilities shrink.
Mhm.
So the desire to continue to please other people decreases. And within that, we also don't know what to do instead. So,
Ah.
uh, we'll just say someone who has stronger people pleasing tendencies will start to feel more resentful
Mm.
and they'll start to feel taken advantage of. And it's not until they're able to really realize I've been in this for so long, in these behaviors, in these habits, interacting with people this way that has worked for me. And now it doesn't work for me. And now I want to do something different because I'm starting to feel resentful. I'm starting to feel taken advantage of, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make that shift. And for so many of us, the people pleasing behaviors and trying to take care of other people's emotions and manage the situations where everyone's happy, that worked, right? We were
Mhm.
able to take care of the kids. We were able to please our partners. We were able to please the friends and the family. And we may have felt really good about that. But as the
Yeah.
hormones shift, our way of thinking shifts and our desire is shifting. And we really
I,
need to
I mean,
know.
what you said really just it really hit me because I've heard this people pleasing come up, and along with the conversation about estrogen decreasing and estrogen being a protective hormone and sort of almost tearing down that
Mm-hmm.
people pleasing necessity, to
Yeah,
feel valued and loved and that kind of thing.
right.
And I think of my own situation. I have two teenage sons, and I almost feel like I'm in perimenopause, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
almost conflicted, within the same thought. So first thing is, like, oh, I see my son working so hard. He's home from college. He's working on break full time plus. And I think, oh, I really should help him out. I should, maybe do his laundry for him. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
working full time plus two, but my schedule is, I'm in the home. So I'm a little more
Mhm.
flexible. I can throw in a load of laundry. He's
Mhm.
out of the home working. And then I immediately feel resentment
Yep.
about it, like almost in the same thought,
Yep.
because he'll come home from work and he'll want to go out with his friends, or
Mhm.
he'll want to play video games or something. And then I get, and it's almost like this internal conflict. So I've never heard it described that way before with the term resentment.
Yep.
That really resonated with me.
Yes, yes. And I would point out that because you have that should in your language, I should do this for him. I should do
Yes.
this. I should do that. That's the key that I just touch on with every single person. It's that should. Well, who said
Yeah.
you should? And whose
Right.
expectation is that? And then
Good.
from
Good. Yeah.
my friend that, wrote a book, 12 Steps to Overcome People Pleasing, Trina changes the should to could. I could help him. I could
Okay.
make dinner. I could do this. And then I take it a step further and I say, well, what is more aligned with your values right now? Because they could be shifting in this time also.
Okay.
So is the value of, well, I want to support my son and do X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, you could. Do you have that capacity? Does it align with your values? If it's yes, then go for it, by all means.
Wow.
But if it doesn't anymore, if you're like, well, I do want him to be more independent and, I want all
Right.
that, that's also a value. I want independent children. I want, to teach them to be independent. That's a value. Okay, well, I could let him do his thing and be independent. And I don't have the
Right.
capacity to do X, Y, and Z today. So today, my value is independence. But it's changing the should, that expectation that is put on all women, that we should be taking care of everybody, that we should be, XYZ, put whatever that next thought comes in, just change it. And that's what I love about Trina's book. And when I, worked with her, it's changing it to could. And I say, change it to I want to, or I don't want to, because it is or is not aligned with my values at this stage.
Okay, that's brilliant. Now, for our listeners and also my benefit, can you tell
Mhm.
us again the title of the book and the
Yep.
author?
Yep. The book is 12 Steps to Overcome People Pleasing by
Okay.
Trina Stutzman.
Okay, wonderful. We'll put that in the
Yep.
show notes link.
Yep. And I use the
We'll put
book.
that link in the show notes.
Yeah, I use that book as a workbook with most of my clients. It's
Wow.
small. It talks about her story, but it gives specific steps. The first chapter is the shoulds. And I've been talking about shoulds for the last 4 years with my clients. It's so important when we make that change in language. It goes from feeling heavy as a should, I
Mm-hmm.
should do that, versus I could. It gives us option. It gives us empowerment to make a decision versus feeling pressure to do something that may or not be aligned with our values anymore, especially in this time of transition in our life. Our values are most likely shifting.
I love that. I love this. Oh my gosh, this
Thank
is
you.
so good. So I've heard about shoulding on yourself
Yes.
before, but not in this context. So I like the turning and you heard, I just off the cuff was talking about this story about my son and you
Yep.
heard me say the word should and I didn't even know
Yep.
I was saying it.
No.
And so the message is move your should to a could and then ask yourself, does this, I could do it, but does it align with my
Yep.
values? And you used a word just now, empowerment.
Mhm.
And the whole thing for me, that whole process from the should to the could to the values, is moving really from a place of being a victim to a place of empowerment.
Yep.
And wow, that feels good.
It does. It does.
That's
Yes.
great.
Yep.
Wow. Now, how can women like what are some of the signs that someone's stuck in a people-pleasing pattern, especially at
Mhm.
midlife, if they don't quite recognize it yet? What could they use or ask themselves to identify that they are stuck in this people-pleasing pattern?
Yeah, like I said, it's really starting to feel resentful. And it's feeling like, well, one, I could be noticing all the shoulds. I should, I should,
Mm.
I should. And then questioning, where is that coming from? So if you can notice when you're saying that word, you may notice that you are doing more things that you don't actually want to.
Okay.
And when you do these things, you're going to feel heavier. You're going to feel maybe angry.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe thinking about it when you automatically say, oh, yes, I can do that. And then going, why did I say yes? I just double booked myself, or I just added something to my plate where I never wanted to do that. So
Okay. So
you'll,
like really thinking about how these actions and your thoughts and your actions are making you feel about what you've
yes.
decided or what you've done. Okay.
Yes. And I
Good.
think while we're in this transition with our, estrogen and not, wanting to do as much or not wanting to caregive as much, we're going to be more, I don't know if in tuned right away, but we're going to be more aware of it causing some type of feeling for us.
Mm.
And that
Okay.
could be the resentment, feeling heavier, feeling angry, feeling like, why am I doing everything?
Yeah.
Because you always did everything and it was
Right.
okay to a point before, but now
Right.
it's not okay. So I think you're going to experience more of these feelings and thoughts of, well, what the hell? Why am I doing this? And really starting to question what you're doing.
Yeah. Now, do you find when because this is excellent therapy and coaching for women, but do you find that this to be hard for women in
Yes.
perimenopause? And so like right now, like it makes so logical sense to me, right? I feel like
Hmm.
I'm going to march up there and I'm just going
Right.
to, rip his stuff out of the dryer and say,
Right.
okay, you do the rest. Right.
Yeah.
But, so much of our identity has been
Hmm.
tied to caregiving and
Yeah.
saying yes.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, like, what type of resistance do you find in your practice with your clients who understand this logically,
Hmm.
but then have a hard time putting it in action?
Yes, absolutely. It is very, very difficult because, like you said, it does go to our identity. And I feel like in the perimenopause menopause transition, our identity is changing. It is shifting, right? We might want to spend more time on ourselves, and that requires us to say no and people please less if we're going to focus on
Okay.
ourselves. So the resistance is strong. It really is. And I think most people, especially in the beginning, are not necessarily willing to give up some of these behaviors. So that's why I always say you have to start small, very small,
Okay.
right? Just become aware of the shoulds. Just become
Be-
aware of how many times your automatic response is yes. And
Okay.
and
Okay.
maybe just trying to state what you want for something really, really small. So if someone says, what do you want for dinner? Don't say, oh, it doesn't matter, whatever you want. Maybe say, I'm thinking chicken.
Okay.
So teeny tiny steps will make it easier, but the resistance is definitely strong, and it's going to be because change is difficult,
Right. Right.
right?
Okay. So starting small
Yes.
and thinking before you just say your normal, whatever you want, I don't care, what do you want to do this
Yes.
weekend, anything. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care, if we don't go out, or I don't care what we do this weekend. But I mean, I secretly do care,
Mm-hmm.
or like, what do you want for Christmas? Oh, whatever, but I secretly know what I want. And then I get
Right.
it, then I get depressed or else buy it for myself.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. So for me, it's practicing the pause. So it's pausing before you respond, and
Okay.
that takes practice, but it's also having an automatic response versus yes, just saying, well, let me think about that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that kind of leads into what I was going to ask you next is can you give us an example of a tool or even a
Mhm.
script that we could use for setting a boundary that feels firm but respectful.
Yes, there's definitely different ways to practice saying no. But the first thing is taking that pause. And within that
Pause.
pause, changing your automatic response from yes to let me think about that. Even if you want to
Okay.
do it, just practice saying, let me think about that. Give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 days, whatever it is. And then actually think to yourself, your first thought's probably gonna be like, I should do that. But then it's
Yeah.
practicing, I could. Do I want to? Do I have the capacity? And I feel like with women in this stage of life, our capacity is getting much, much smaller. So
Yes.
it's understanding I should do that. Well, I could switch some things around. Do I really want to? Is that aligned in my values? It's giving yourself that time in that pause to think about those things. And then you're able to say things like, that's just not going to work for me right now. Ask me later.
Okay.
Because it's very hard for us to say a flat out no. We want to justify, we want to explain just to lessen the
Yes.
blow.
Yes.
Right.
I back in December, I had a masterclass in my community called Confidence Scripts for the Holidays. And something you just said made me come back to that class, because one of the things that I taught is we were practicing scripts. And that is just little quick things that you could memorize or say if someone were to ask like an intrusive question, or someone were to make an inappropriate comment, or you're feeling stressed about over obligating. And so I focused on what I called the space. And that
Mm-hmm.
is, like you just said, is the pause.
Yep.
So before you shout out yes, no, or
Mm-hmm.
anything off the cuff, you take that pause, and then a lot of times you have the script there. This is what we were working on in this class.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm hearing you say is, take the pause, don't jump in and say yes right away just because you want to fill the silence, or you
Yep.
feel obligated, or you feel guilty. And then the script that is really, it's very simple but powerful, is let me think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's very neutral, right? You're not
Yes.
putting anyone on the defensive that they have to
Mm-mm.
um take offense to it or anything. I mean, you can't control what a reaction is going to be, but it really is like, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, let me think
Mm-hmm.
about it. And there could be a host of reasons you need to think about it. And so I really like that script.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
think
And
that's
then,
really, really great.
yeah,
How do you help clients who, I mean, do they come to you and I imagine and say that this makes them feel guilty when
all
they
the time.
start putting themselves
Mm-hmm.
first? And with
Yep.
others that they've cared for so long, their family or their friends, they may get a little bit of pushback because, wait, who's
Mm-hmm.
this? What do you mean you have to think about it? Or
Yep.
that doesn't align with your values, or you could. So how do you kind of work through the guilt with clients?
Absolutely. It's very, very strong. I feel like most women, especially people pleasers, are trying to keep the guilt away by people pleasing. So if you take away the people pleasing, they're going to feel guilty. They're going to feel like they're doing something wrong. They're not, but it's because of other people's reactions to them when they do
Yeah.
say no, or I can't do that right now. So, one thing is really learning how to regulate your nervous system,
Okay.
because it's going to bring up all those feelings of guilt, anxiety, right? Because you're going to have to handle someone else's possibly negative reaction because they've been so
Right.
used to being a yes woman. Once you start saying no, they're not going to know what to do, possibly, depending what they received from you over the years and their expectations of you. They're going to have a reaction. It's not that you're doing anything wrong, but your nervous system is going to react to their reaction. So it's being
Right.
able to take those deep breaths, walk away, do whatever's going to help your nervous system relax after you say, let me think about it. I can't do that right now. And also noticing that guilt is because you've been living by, most likely, other people's expectations for most of your life.
Right.
So I feel like once the estrogen decreases and our desire to want to care give goes away, or at least decreases, that desire to continue to live by other people's expectations also decreases. So it actually helps us create these changes in this time period. But it's also working with, I don't need to feel guilty anymore. I only feel guilty because they were maybe using guilt or shame or just having a negative reaction to what I want. So it's
Okay.
starting to shift you as a priority, you on top of your list versus everybody else. And that can be very, very difficult. But as you work with your nervous system and, do things and incorporate calming activities, calming thoughts, you're able to notice certain people that you can practice with. That'll make it easier. Maybe a
Hey, that's a
partner.
great point. Yeah. You
Mm-hmm.
might not pick your most challenging
No,
victim.
no, not at all. No.
You want to build some confidence, right? That, hey,
Yes.
that worked. I did that. I feel good about the result.
Yes. Yes. And that's how we build confidence in life, right? We take the first teeny tiny steps and then
Yeah.
we can add more and go further. So always start with the safest person, maybe to someone you're already comfortable saying, nope, not tonight. Just do that
Okay.
more. And then I would say with the next level of person, maybe you've done it a few times, but you might be able to say, hey, I'm really trying to do something new right now. I'm really trying to put myself, at the top of my priority list, think about myself, do a little bit for me now. And probably that person will be like, okay, great, go for it. And so you just say, I might start saying no. And if that person is, a safe person, they'll be like, okay, great, I got it.
Yeah. Won't their reaction tell you a lot
Yes.
about them or
Yes.
about maybe how they respect you, right? Like, do they
Yes.
take offense to that, or do they say, oh yeah, absolutely? I
Yeah.
mean, I think that could really tell you a lot about the people that you have relationships with.
Mm-hmm. It does. It really does.
Yeah. I
And
remember I had a friend recently who invited me to something, and she's the kind of friend, she's a good friend, and she's the kind of friend that I would always say yes to. I love spending time with.
Mhm.
But I actually had a client that night, and I said, oh, I have a client. I can't go. I can't come. And her comment to me was, well, just cancel your client and reschedule her.
Mm.
And I was, I would never do that. I would never do that. I mean, um, it's a paying client. They come before my
Right.
social life,
Right.
But it really told me something about
Yeah.
her, how she perceived, maybe it was my business or the importance of her event over what she thought could be an easy reschedule. It just was like a
Mm.
little bit enlightening actually to hear people's reactions to some of this stuff. And this was not just nah, I'm really not up for it. I don't feel like it. This
Mhm.
was what is a pretty valid excuse.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. We definitely get those clues into, kind of not necessarily where we stand with someone, but what they
Yeah.
expect from us and maybe what they have been receiving from us for so long.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's funny. There's a story that, we've all heard the saying, like, you teach people how to treat you, right?
Yeah.
I have such a funny story. My youngest son, he was only 5 years old, and was in kindergarten, half day kindergarten. I mean, he's 17 now, but one of the first days on the bus, I said, "How was the bus ride?" And he said, "It was terrible." He said, Joey wouldn't let me sit with him. He was already sitting with Bobby or something like that. And I said, "Okay, well, how did that make you feel?" Well, he said, "Terrible. I was really mad. I was sad." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry that happened. I hope you found a place to sit, but you can just kind of think about, how that made you feel and how you would not want anyone else to ever feel that way. So if someone were to ask you to sit with them, remember how it made you feel to get rejected, and don't do that." And the next day he came off the bus and I said, "How did your bus ride go today?" And he said it was great. And I said, "Well, who did you sit with?" And he said, "Well, Joey asked me if he could sit with me today." I said, "Oh, good. How did you react?" And he said, "I told him no." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. I was like, that's not what we talked about." And he said, "Well, it's treat others how you want to be treated, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I guess that's how he wants to be treated." And it was like, oh my gosh, it's coming out of a 5-year-old's mouth. I wasn't sure whether to be mortified or to be proud. But something you said reminded me of that story, because you said maybe that's the way they're used to being treated by you for so long, right? So like if you've always said yes to somebody for so long, even when you didn't want to do something, you've always made time or rearranged your schedule, maybe that's part of their reaction. Maybe it's not that they just have no respect for you all of a sudden. Maybe it's like, well, wait a minute, you've never done this to me before. Is this, So I think that was really insightful. Sorry for my tangent, but I just love that story. It's just so funny.
Yes. And it's sometimes in the way you say no, such as, things you can start saying like, I need to honor my bandwidth, or I don't have the capacity for that, where you want to give a little bit of an explanation, but it's really saying right now, that's not going to work for me. Or even thanks for understanding, but I'm saying no. And it's just, I'm not available, but it's giving them a little bit of something.
Yeah.
That they're not used to, but it's saying, and they're like, oh, you don't have the capacity. Okay, well, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Because we're afraid our no is going to make them feel bad.
Right.
And if we can give them a little bit of something, so they know it's not them, versus, hey, no, I just don't want to hang out with you. It's, hey, I don't have the capacity to tonight. I need to go, to bed early tonight for something. We're telling them, no, it's me. I'm choosing this because I need to put myself first. And as long as the person is respectful and they do, understand that give and take in relationships, they'll most likely be like, oh, okay. Even if it's a shock because you've always said yes, you're now saying, I need to do this for me. And most of the time, the other person will say, okay, that makes sense. Great. Let's plan another day. So that's when your nervous system go, oh, you can take that sigh of relief, be like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Right.
And then you get the
builds
motivation.
A little confidence for next time.
Yep. You get that motivation to do a little bit more and a little bit more. And then you have your circle of friends that are like, wow, Ashley's really taking control of her life. This is great. It was about time she did this.
Right. And I also think it, like in an unspoken way, gives other women permission to do the same.
Yeah.
Right.
It does.
So let's say, for an example, like I go to a dinner or an event that I didn't really want to go to. And I say, oh, where's Leah? Oh, she just said she couldn't make it. And I think to myself, oh, well, I guess I could do that too, right? Like not everybody just shows up because someone else put it on the calendar. So I think the more of that we do in a gentle and respectful way, the more it may give our friends and other women in our life permission to do the same, which is just really like an unspoken act of kindness, I think.
It is. It is, because then they also know that in your relationship with them, if they're doing it, they're going to be okay with you doing it.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
So that's where I say start with your safe people. It becomes easier.
That's great advice. Now, I'm going to ask you, why do you think that perimenopause specifically, or menopause, is a good time to start doing this?
Yep.
Releasing old patterns related to people pleasing. Why now?
Yeah, because I really feel like in this time of life, the hormones are helping us because the estrogen, that protective factor that wants us to continue caretaking is decreasing, or at least it's in a roller coaster ride. So having maybe the space or the capacity to even have a different thought than I have to do this opens up space in this time of life when we're looking at what is our identity, right? Our
Right.
kids are growing up. I have a 10 and a 13-year-old. Things are shifting. They still
Yep.
need me, but not as much, right? You have almost young adults at home. They definitely don't
Yeah.
need you as much. So it's
Right.
time for us to look, how do I want this next chapter to look? And when I see clients, they're kind of like, I don't know myself anymore because I have been caretaking and parenting, and now I have to take care of my parents and all those external responsibilities. Some of them are lessening. So it opens up that space. And we want that space. We want to finally be able to, like, no, this is time for me. And you
Hmm.
can find that. So I think all of it is kind of shifting in the right direction. So now that we're like, who am I? We have space, and we have to say no to things that are no longer aligned. And that's where I work with clients to find, what are your values now? Have they shifted?
Mm.
Right? What are things that you used to do that maybe you want to get back into? Maybe you don't want to continue doing it at all anymore. So what is the other options that are open? And I feel like when we're so much in the people pleasing behaviors and caretaking, we don't have the capacity to see outside of that until we start to feel anger and resentment for what we were doing. And then we can open up to, there's a whole other life out there that I could have.
Yeah. I mean, that was actually really beautifully said. I love the way you answered that, because I think, our brain, our nervous system, our entire body, as we're going through perimenopause and into postmenopause, is pushing us this way.
Mm-hmm.
So let's lean into it
Yeah.
and create a better life for ourselves, a
Mm-hmm.
more empowered life for ourselves. So I love that. It's kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the way it's going anyway, naturally. So,
Yeah.
one of the things that you spoke about so nicely is identity.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have long lists of symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. We've all said the joint pain,
Mm-hmm.
night sweats, brain fog, all the things, even itchy ears, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the big one oftentimes is identity, and is looking at ourselves in the mirror thinking like, am I still relevant?
Yeah.
Am I still sexy?
Mm-hmm.
Does the work I do still have meaning? Does my family still need me? And we find ourselves at a crossroads a lot of times in midlife, with children that are getting older, parents that are getting older, careers that are, maybe stalled, or maybe at a crossroads where we can go for the CEO position or maybe pull back. And so there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things colliding at this point. And it is, as you said very well, a natural time to release old people pleasing patterns and lean into our future self and our values. And so,
Yes.
as we wrap here, if you could
Mm-hmm.
give our listeners one final thought or piece of advice related to
Yeah.
tackling people pleasing in perimenopause and menopause, what would it be?
Yes. I think it would be start small. You are worth it to start to put yourself at the top of the priority list. It could be difficult, so start small. Start with your safe people. Start with just practicing that pause and just saying, let me think about it. And then really figure out what is aligned with your values, because you're going to feel more fulfilled, more empowered, and more in charge of this next stage of life if you do so.
Now, there are so many good nuggets in here. Leah, thank you so much for this conversation. You are just amazing. I feel so fortunate to know you. And I know our listeners are going to want to follow up with you and your work. So we'll put all of your information in our show notes. But let us know right now, where can our listeners go if they'd like to continue their learning journey with you?
Sure. The website is risingsuntherapy.com. The Facebook is Rising Sun Therapy. My Instagram is my name. It's just Leah Andreoni. They can also listen to me and my co-host Adrian on our podcast, Real Parenting for Sensitive Moms, on Apple or Spotify. So they'll get tons of little nuggets there, and then they'll hear the podcast that we had with you on there shortly. So that's exciting. So there's various different ways, and I would love to just connect. And even if I can't help them, I'm always willing to send them in the right direction of trusted providers.
That's wonderful. I'm going to list all that and more in the show notes. And Leah, thank you so much for being here. This was such an honest and affirming conversation. You know, some of the personal stories I shared, I did not plan to share, but you're just so good at what you do and so good at drawing women out, and you're so practical and you really listen, and the words that you use really are impactful. They really matter. I know they're going to resonate with the women listening, especially those who have felt stretched so thin or stuck in this overgiving, people pleasing for so many years. So thank you for your mix of professional insight and lived experience. You're making everything feel doable and very human. And I'm really grateful for the work that you're doing through Rising Sun, through your podcast. I'm honored to have you on StrongHER Voices. And so for anyone who wants to learn more, definitely check out the show notes. As I said, I'm going to link all the ways you can connect with Leah and her podcast, Real Parenting for Sensitive Moms, and more. So thank you so much for being here, Leah. It was just a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for all your education. It is so needed right now for all the moms and the women out there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Leah. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to StrongHER Voices. If today's episode supported you, inspired you, or made you feel seen, I would love for you to subscribe and leave a quick review. It helps more women in their StrongHER era find this show, and it truly means the world to me. If you're craving more support, accountability, and connection, come join our vibrant community at getfitwithashley.com/stronger. Inside StrongHER Together, you'll find daily encouragement, expert coaching, education, challenges, and a sisterhood of women committed to growing stronger in every way. Use code VOICES for $25 off your membership. And don't forget to let me know where you're listening from. I love adding new pins to my world map of StrongHER listeners. And just a quick reminder, StrongHER Voices is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider about your personal health needs. Until next time, remember, you're not in a pause, you're in your power.